Hey, thanks for making it to Veterans Info Tap. I'm glad you made it. Are you in the need of solid medical evidence? Well, if your doctor can't, won't, or doesn't, I highly suggest American Medical Experts, AME. They are board certified doctors. They're not going to fabricate. They're not going to do any of that. They are going to take your records, take your statements, have conversations with you, and then formulate the correct medical evidence that you need to support your claim for VA disability compensation. It's that simple. Now, they are running a special on Nexus letters, and I'm going to explain Nexus letters to you. Is a Nexus letter a requirement? No. A Nexus is a requirement for VA disability compensation. The only exception really is if it's a presumptive, because the VA has already determined the Nexus. So it's still required. They've already predetermined the Nexus for you. So a Nexus is a requirement. If you need a Nexus letter from a medical provider, reach out to AME. Their link is in the description and in the comments. They're running a special through November 11th, Veterans Day. So from now through Veterans Day, if you book your consultation, you will get that $200 off. So you get, and I'll put this in the description, get $200 off your Nexus letter when you book your free consultation today through Veterans Day. So it is valid through November 11th. So secure that free consultation as soon as possible. Don't wait. It's free. The consultation's free. Have the conversation and get that ball rolling. Then you make the decision on if it's right for you to move forward. Now, it is so important when it comes to medical evidence, especially if you need a Nexus letter. Now, let me just give you two examples here of when somebody may need a Nexus letter and when they don't need a Nexus letter. Either way, they need a Nexus. Okay, so that part is true. And what is Nexus? Let's define Nexus very loosely. Nexus is in VA world for disability compensation benefits. Nexus is the link between your diagnosed condition and your time in service. Okay, it's what is the linkage there, right? Show me that these things are related in some way. Now, the first thing that people mess up with when thinking of that is, for whatever reason, we tend to think, okay, that means that I have to show the VA that the military caused my condition. That's not true. That's not the end of it. Okay, so it is more. I guess this would be a more appropriate statement. Prove to the VA that your time in service either caused or made worse your condition, or that your condition manifested during your time in service. That's kind of look, everything with the VA is so nuanced. I say it a lot. So let's give two examples of when you would need a Nexus letter and when you would not need a Nexus letter. All right, so, and I'm going to use something easy like migraines, okay? Migraines. So when you would not need a Nexus letter for a migraine rating with the VA, for your migraine claim. All right, so veteran was in the military, right? So joined the military and then came in, clean slate. There's, everything's good. You passed all your stuff at MEPS. You're a clean slate. You're in. And let's say you just signed up for a 6-year contract, and 4 years in, you started getting migraine headaches. Well, at first you started just going to your medic or your corpsman for the first year of that. So from 4 years to 5 years, you were just going to your corpsman, getting a handful of Motrin and whatever and drinking water. But the migraines persisted, and maybe they started to get worse. And so finally you thought, you know what, I gotta get seen for this. So you actually go to the doctor, whether it's on base or off, doesn't matter. But you go to a doctor, and the doctor goes, you have migraines. Let's prescribe you X or Y, or let's try this or try that. But now you're formally diagnosed for migraines. And let's say that was year 5. So year 5 of your 6-year contract. Diagnosed for migraines, you're taking your whatever medication and you're moving on. And then 6 years comes, you get out and you move on. And then you decide to file your claim whenever you file your claim. You could go back and dig up your medical records and see that there was this diagnosis for migraines, the prescription for this specific medication, and you would supply that, and that information there clearly outlines that your condition manifested during your time in service. You were diagnosed for it. The dates of your diagnosis and your prescriptions and all that stuff were clearly in your time frame of service. That is how you get your nexus established. So now let's talk about if you go to the other example here of I don't have the information that I need, right, for the nexus, right? So let's talk about this one needs a nexus letter. Okay, so the first one, don't need a nexus letter because it's clearly taken care of. So now you move into the other one and the other example here, and same example, right? 6 years time, started getting migraines at 4 years, started taking Motrin and all that stuff. Now you move on, but you never go to the doctor. Okay, you never go to the doctor and you just move on. And now you get out and you just keep taking Motrin. Well, what happens is your medic or your corpsman, they do not supply you with any sort of documentation that you're diagnosed for anything. They're just like, oh, you got a headache, you got a migraine, here's some Motrin. None of that gets written down. I gave 3 Motrin to Joe Snuffy. That doesn't get written down. So there's no indication, there's no documentation of you having migraines during your time in service. You went to your medical professional, right? A corpsman or medic, first line, and they didn't say go to the doctor. They just gave you Motrin and you self-treated with that. You learned that behavior and you continued that behavior. Then you get out of the military, and then later on in life you decide, hey, I'm going to file a claim for my migraines that I clearly had during my time in service. Well, the problem is you do not have any evidence for your nexus. You can't prove to the VA that your condition manifested during your time in service with the current circumstance. So now you need to go through and really work on spelling it all out. And what I mean is you're going to need to write a statement yourself, and in that statement explain why you never went to the actual doctor. Essentially, it was frowned upon, number one. Number two, the corpsman never suggested it. They just gave me Motrin, and I figured that's what you do. So I just learned that behavior, and I continued that on. Buddy statements, if you know anybody during your time in service that could attest to their knowledge of you having your migraines, okay, great. Have them write you a letter. Family members could write you letters attesting to that same information. Now, all of that's great. That's all considered lay evidence, but you really need some medical evidence. You're going to take all of that information. Maybe your MOS could have played a part in it. Don't know. Maybe your location could have played a part in it. Don't know. A medical professional would have to draw those conclusions, right? Maybe you were sniffing jet fuel, every day. Maybe that was your job, jet fuel sniffer. And so maybe that contributed to your migraines. Don't know. Having that conversation with your medical provider. Now, regardless of MOS or not, you still had migraines that developed during your time in service. So you're going to get all of that lay evidence together, all the statements, and you're going to have a conversation with your doctor and ask them to write you a nexus letter from a medical provider, right? This will become medical evidence coming from a doctor who's going to state that your condition is at least as likely as not to have manifested during your time in service. Now, whatever the rationale is, everybody's situation's different. They're going to throw in all this different rationale that support that statement. Now, that is a nexus letter. Now, if your doctor can't, won't, or doesn't understand exactly what the VA is looking for in a nexus letter, again, go to AME, American Medical Experts, board-certified doctors. They'll review all of your information. They'll work with you. They'll create the rationale. They'll create the nexus letter $200 off Nexus Letter if you schedule your free consultation before Veterans Day here of 2025. With that, thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you very much. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.